We've explored the foundations of inner work together, understanding what it actually means beyond the buzzwords, recognizing how your body plays a crucial role in this process, and also learning my personal journey throughout the confrontation with the self. But here's what I see missing from most inner work and personal development approaches: the bridge between psychological insight and how you actually live in your body every single day. So I'm Arrabella Schippers, and after 20 years working in holistic health, fitness, nutrition, and bodywork, I've learned something that might surprise you. Your relationship with self-care is one of the most revealing mirrors of your inner landscape that you'll ever encounter. So today, I want to talk about conscious self-care, not as another wellness trend, but as a fundamental practice for integrating inner work into real life. So here's what I've observed working with hundreds of clients over 2 decades. People can have profound psychological insights, understand their patterns, and even do deep shadow work. But if they can't translate that awareness into how they feed themselves, move their bodies, and create daily rhythms that support their well-being, that transformation is just intellectual and often abstract. So inner work without embodied self-care is just expensive therapy that doesn't stick. I have seen people spend years in analysis understanding their mother wound while simultaneously treating their bodies with the same criticism and neglect that they experienced as children. I've watched clients gain incredible insights about their shadow patterns while maintaining exercise routines that are essentially self-punishment disguised as wellness. So the way you care for yourself or don't is shadow work in action. It's where your unconscious patterns show up most clearly, and it's where real integration can actually happen. So let me tell you what I see in my practice. Someone comes to me and they want to get healthy, they want to lose weight, they want to build better habits. On the surface, these seem like straightforward goals, but as we dig deeper, the shadow patterns begin to emerge. The perfectionist who can't start a workout routine unless they can commit to going to the gym 6 days a week. The people pleaser who takes care of everyone else's needs while ignoring their own hunger cues and exhaustion. And the achiever who turns every aspect of wellness into a performance metric to optimize. Or there's the opposite, the rebel shadow that rejects any structure or routine as oppressive. The wounded child shadow that uses food for emotional comfort while simultaneously hating their body for needing comfort at all. Now, these aren't character flaws. These are unconscious patterns playing out through the most basic acts of self-care. And until we make these patterns conscious, there's no amount of meal planning or workout schedules that will create lasting change. The wellness industry loves to sell you systems, protocols, and quick fixes like 30-day challenges and biohacking trends or superfoods that will change your life. But what's missing is the recognition that sustainable self-care is psychological work. It's about developing a relationship with your body that's rooted in presence rather than performance. And it's about learning to listen to your actual needs instead of following someone else's prescription for what health should look like. This is why so many people cycle through wellness trends without lasting change. They're trying to impose external solutions on internal patterns that have never been addressed. When I started my career in fitness and bodywork, I was focused on the mechanics, exercise, physiology, nutrition science, and corrective movement patterns. I believed that if I could just give people the right information and technique, that would transform their health. But what I discovered over years of working with bodies is that the body holds everything: trauma, beliefs, patterns, and stories. Someone's relationship with exercise might reveal their relationship with discipline, control, and self-worth. How they eat reflects their capacity for self-nurturing, boundary setting, and even pleasure. I realized I wasn't just working with muscles and metabolism. I was working with the full human psyche expressed through physical form. That's when my practice evolved to include what I call conscious self-care as a part of Path of Inner Work coaching. Conscious self-care isn't about following the latest wellness trend or optimizing every aspect of your biology. It's about developing the awareness to recognize what your body actually needs and the skill to respond to those needs with compassion rather than control. It's about honesty, getting help when you need it, and recognizing that our bodies change over time and that we can come to cherish those changes rather than fighting against them. It means noticing when you're eating from anxiety versus hunger, recognizing when your workout routine is motivated by self-punishment versus genuine care, understanding the difference between rest and avoidance. So this requires developing what I call body literacy, the ability to read your own physical and emotional signals and respond appropriately. Most people have been disconnected from this capacity since childhood, when they learned to override their natural rhythms to fit external expectations. Through my years of working with people on improving their health and habits, I developed the ARVAmethod framework for conscious self-care that integrates psychological awareness with practical wellness. And this includes movement, which is more than just exercise. It's how you engage with the world, move and strengthen your body, and it can include many things, both structured and intuitive. Rest, which is just as essential as movement and allows us to slow down, recover, restore, and replenish the body and the mind with intentional practices, creating space in our bodies and in our lives. Nourishment, which is how we fuel our bodies with food and practices that nurture connection, vitality, and awareness. Food is more than nutrition. It's often connecting us to culture, community, and to the earth. And these aspects should be included in how we approach nourishment. And finally, bringing everything together with alignment, which means living in harmony with your true self, listening to your intuition, and finding solid ground and intentionality in how you live and care for yourself. So the biggest obstacle I see is the belief that self-care should feel effortless if you're doing it right. People think that once they resolve their emotional patterns, healthy habits will just flow naturally. And the truth is more nuanced. So conscious self-care requires both psychological awareness and practical skill building. You need to understand your patterns and also learn concrete tools for creating sustainable change. It's both inner and outer work, psychological and physiological, insight and implementation. Now, I want to address some of the most common shadow patterns I see in how people approach health and self-care. We have the spiritual bypasser, often believing that they're above needing structure and routine, using intuitive eating or movement as an excuse to avoid accountability to their body's actual needs. The perfectionist tends to turn every health practice into a test of their worthiness, measuring their value by how consistently they can follow their routines and how much control they can have. And then we also have the people pleaser, using their own wellness goals as currency for approval, constantly seeking validation for their healthy choices while neglecting their deeper needs. And we also have the achiever, who will treat their body like a machine to optimize, missing the relational, emotional, and spiritual aspects of self-care. And in many cases, their obsession with optimization gets in the way of them developing true health and deeper connections. So recognizing these patterns isn't about judgment. It's about bringing consciousness to unconscious motivations so we can choose how to care for ourselves from a more authentic place. This is where inner work becomes practical. When you understand your psychological patterns, you can design self-care practices that work with your psyche rather than against it. If you tend towards perfectionism, then you might need practices that emphasize flexibility and self-compassion. If you're a people pleaser, you might need to focus on boundary setting and prioritizing your own needs. If you're disconnected from your body, you might need practices that emphasize presence and sensation. So the goal isn't to eliminate these patterns, but to work with them consciously, creating space for growth while honoring where you actually are. So if you've been following me so far, you now have a framework for understanding inner work, recognizing the importance of embodied practices, and beginning to integrate psychological awareness with practical self-care. But knowing these concepts and living them are two different things. That's where the real work begins, translating insights into daily choices that support your genuine well-being. So if you're curious about how your own psychological patterns might be showing up in your approach to health and self-care, I've created the Wellness Archetype Quiz to help you explore the patterns that are playing out in your own relationship to self-care and well-being. This assessment will help you identify which archetypal patterns are most active in your shadow around your relationship with self-care and give you some specific insights in how to work with your particular tendencies more consciously. You can find a link to the Wellness Archetype Quiz in the description below. It's free and it will give you a personalized starting point for bringing more awareness to how you care for yourself. So remember, conscious self-care isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about developing the wisdom to know what you need and the skills to provide it with compassion. Your body is not your enemy to control or your project to perfect. It's your partner in this life. And learning to care for it consciously is one of the most profound practices of inner work that you can undertake. So take the quiz, explore your patterns, and begin the journey of integrating your psychological insights with how you actually live in your body every day. Be well.